Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Brave Cat here once again with another Frontier Signals update. So I'm going to try to make it pretty quick for today. So we have been in geomagnetic storm activity here. So yesterday we hit up to a KP7 and today same thing. So, kind of the G2, G3 storm conditions going on from the coronal mass ejections that have been hitting us. So I don't think that's going to go away because what we see coming at us now on the oncoming limb is 3 more sunspot groups. So we got these two up here, especially this lower one looks to be pretty complex here. Not really too big of sunspots, but it looks like it is pretty likely to start flaring. And even down here, we have another one here. Slightly bigger sunspots and slightly complex, but that's what we're going to be looking out for, as well as this remaining region that has yet to face us. So, I mean, based on what we see starting to face us now, I'm starting to think this blue region here might have some pretty significant sunspots here, just based off of the images up here. It's pretty dark. So, we could be looking into some pretty heavy solar activity going into April. And, if that coincides with the Riger cycle uptick and that sun grazing / sun diving comet MAPS that is still approaching the sun, we could be in for a little bit of a show in the next couple weeks. So we've definitely had an uptick of earthquakes. So if we take a look here, this is really the most notable thing that has happened this morning is we had a set of 3 6.0 earthquakes. So 2 6.2s and a 6.3, as well as a 5.9, a 5.6, and a couple 4s. So, it seems likely this could be foreshocks to a bigger event, or even perhaps something kind of similar to what happened up in Kamchatka, where we just had very sustained large activity for some time before something bigger struck. So either way, something seems to be breaking down here. And either way, we are likely to see some sort of compensation movement in the surrounding areas of the plate. So we could see something bigger than a 5 hit down here by New Zealand. We could easily see this go further west into Papua New Guinea and eastern Indonesia. And there could even be a slight chance that we see some activity over here on the east coast of Australia. And other than that here, so Italy's been pretty quiet. Just take a look at Europe really quickly because not much has been going on. Even though yesterday we had quite a colossal swarm and various activity going on here. Everything has dropped back down to pretty much the 2 and 3 range. So really nothing at all going on over there. And then with the large volcanic activity going on in Kamchatka, there's another 30,000+ foot high blast coming out of one of these. And we still see, pretty regular 4s and 5s happening there. And we do have another deep earthquake up here near Alaska. So we're right here in the Alaskan island chain. And just like any other island chain, this one is full of volcanoes. So if you take a look here, we can see quite a few of them listed. Even the ones that are dormant, even the ones that haven't erupted in 10,000 years. So, if we take a look in here, of course, if you zoom in too far, some funny business happens. Might have to reload this really quick. Alright, so to see this more clearly here, we can either turn off the earthquakes, or we can just simply filter out all of the small activity, which, 3s could be considered small, but I think in terms of kind of like true seismology, you still got to look at those smaller earthquakes because it does mean something is going on. We have actually a lot of kind of equidistantly spaced earthquakes as well. So like all these 3s right here, are kind of spaced out evenly with these island chains. And then here is the deep 4.4 at 618 kilometers. So again, that's a little bit unusual for this area. And if we see that trend continue, it definitely could be a sign for either larger activity or even potentially volcanic activity. And I think the latter might be a little bit more likely because, again, turn on the volcanoes here. We have a ton of volcanoes all over these islands here because that's how they are formed. And, most of these are, no confirmed Holocene eruptions, and some of them just haven't erupted in a long time. But there's a couple major ones that are still around here. So we have Shishaldin up here, which has been seeing some sort of activity. And then somewhere else in that same area, take a look at this here, we have Great Sitkin volcano. That one has also been seeing activity. So that deep 4.4 was just north, somewhere around here. So, don't be surprised if we see more volcanic activity coming from Alaska, because I think at this point that's kind of on the board for possibilities. And looking at the rest of it here, this is not for the correct day. Hold on. All right, here we go. So for today, we have, again, that Kamchatka volcano, Shiviluk, or whatever, with a 33,000 foot high blast. And pretty much the rest of them here, kind of the usual spots here: Popocate, Fuego, Sangay, Reventador, and Sabancaya. So again, those are all the Central and South America ones. This one is in Mexico, Popocate. And then we have Fuego here. And then down here is where the rest of them are. So Reventador, Sangay, and then Sabancaya. So that's still where we see the most ongoing ash emissions. And then, of course, a lot of these random volcanoes in Indonesia, a lot of those have been going off quite a bit, as well as here in Japan, which I don't have all of them on here, but I probably should, because there's, volcanoes on this whole island chain, just like Alaska, just not as big, and, so on and so forth. So, this space weather definitely seems to be affecting some things here. So, when you're talking about earthquakes, things electromagnetically can influence it. And then you have the actual solar particles and cosmic ray bombardment that penetrates into the atmosphere and into even down into the mantle in some places, because when you have these fault zones, like over here in Fiji, these fault zones and these magma chambers go really, really deep into the earth and provide a spot of least resistance for that, space energy to go into the earth and influence minerals and the mantle and all that stuff. So that's kind of what we're looking like across the board here. I'm kind of looking for my next major push on this website. I want to have some things on here that are truly useful and not just, stuff you can look up. So, the next major thing is still going to be the pole shift star chart, which is going to be for navigation, depending on what happens, if you know, kind of thing. So that's a pretty big project right now. I'm just still trying to make it work. But, yeah, I think that'll about do it for today's update. Hope y'all enjoyed, got something out of it. Please like and subscribe for more. Share this video if you dare, and I'll catch you all in the next.